going to explain to you about our newest application, which actually works for Android and iOS devices. The app name is Passport Culture, and it is the app that you must have when you want or intend to travel abroad in order to avoid making any cultural blunders. The team members that came up with this amazing application are Gabriela Palacios, Natalia Rios, Esteban Duque, Diego Vers, and Nicolás Acevedo. Our team was very thorough, and we realized that there was a huge market opportunity for our application to be a success. And we based our premise on the following: there is an actual need to create awareness of cultural differences, but you also need to be aware of cultural blunders. You need to avoid them at all costs. This is due to the fact that globalization is not a trend anymore, but rather a reality, and sooner rather than later, you will face somebody that comes from a different cultural background. This can help you when you are either confronting someone or you are working together to solve common problems. Regardless of the final use or end, when interacting with people from other countries, one cannot ignore how the cultural factors and the use of language play a key role in shaping an effective communication setting. For this reason, it is necessary to be aware of cultural differences, especially when considering the increasing globalization and the lack of information available for company and people wanting to engage in activities abroad, which can end up in the emergence of confrontations and blunders among peoples due to the differences in the way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Cross-cultural blunders are caused, among others, by inappropriate use of language and unawareness of cultural differences. These are a common problem in international professional communication. They cause misunderstanding, lead to business failures, and tend to be offensive at times. Cross-cultural professional communication involves the use of language, rhetorical strategy, and intercultural communication theories to accommodate the values, customs, assumptions, beliefs, and the needs of the target audience. However, main problems often arise in the fields of language and cultural differences, as language is the main means to express ideas and values of culture. The following examples are the best evidence of such blunders. When Coca-Cola was first translated phonetically into Chinese, the resultant phrase meant "bite the wax tadpole." The company finally marketed its product under an alternative phrase, which does not sound like Coca-Cola, but carries the more appetizing meaning delicious and enjoyable. This, however, was a very costly mistake. In this context, to achieve a good understanding of cultural differences and to avoid cultural blunders, one needs to study cultures carefully in light of intercultural communication theories proposed by authors like Edward T. Hall, John C. Condon, Gerd Hofstede, von Strompenars, and Harry C. And this is why the Passport Culture app was created. This app, which is actually available for all Android devices and Apple devices, actually assists foreigners in combating stereotypes about what life is like in other countries. It also features a day in my life stories recorded by people or cultural advisors from around the world. Also, it teaches others about culture, geography, and history of each country and gives people the ability to view how natives from around the world live and interact, and take an intimate look at their customs, foods, symbols, etc. In short, with this app, foreigners walk inside the shoes of people from other nationalities and cultures, like a Muslim woman, an African man, or a Chinese businessman, in order to prepare them to enjoy their leisure or business trip as if they were nationals of the country they are visiting, thus also lessening the chances of making cultural blunders. The target market for this app are business people, foreign students, and casual travelers that want to be prepared by having high cultural sensitivity when traveling abroad. There are two versions, a basic and a premium one. The difference relies on the additional personal body or advisor for a specific request included in the premium version. When it comes to payment, there's a one-time registration fee for basic and premium and an additional monthly payment for the premium version. Also, the app is going to be quite successful because it will have additional revenue streams, like publicity, because within the app, restaurants, hotels, and tours will be advertised. Now that we have captured your interest, let me tell you how this application works. To start with, users have to pick a country to explore from the many options the application gives you. After doing so, they will determine the purpose or the reason for the trip. Is it a leisure, recreation, or vacation? Are you visiting friends and relatives abroad? Is your trip regarding education, maybe business? Finally, what you also have to provide to the application is the duration of your visit. This is very important because depending on the dates you're traveling, you might find some cultural rituals that where you're going, people are going to have. As cultural differences can manifest themselves in several ways, users will then need to choose one of the 10 modules they have available to explore. They can either learn about symbols, rituals, heroes, values, context, nonverbal communication, stereotypes, do's and don'ts, as well as space and time perception. Please remember that all this application was decided and was actually built having in mind the current theories and frameworks regarding intercultural communication that we currently have. Remember that everything was backed by the studies of Hall, Condon, Hofstede, Trompenaars, and Harry C. After you click in one of the functions of the app is where things get interesting. For example, when you check the different symbols between Colombia and China, you will see in the app all of the information that is useful to you. This is connected with the theory of Hofstede and Trompenaars that they let us know that symbols are the words, gestures, pictures, or objects that carry a particular meaning, only recognized as such by those who share the culture. But with our application, you will see that you will be able to understand even though you are not a native. When it comes to heroes, it is mandatory that we consider that they can be persons alive or dead, real or imaginary, who possess characteristics that are highly prized within a specific culture. So regardless of the culture that you get to know, they will be heroes for them. So, as the example of an application shows, for China, it could be Confucius. And the good thing about that application is that you can click to read more about this important person and hero for the Chinese people. When it comes to rituals, you know, because you've been using our app, that there are collective activities technically superfluous to reach desired ends, but which within a culture are considered socially essential. Once again, remember that our application is backed with the current theory that intercultural communication is based upon. So, for example, in the application, you can find out everything about the Chinese New Year or the Lunar New Year. There are two more concepts that is mandatory to know when you want to be culturally aware. The first one is space and the second one is time. They are both defined by Hall in his studies. For example, when it comes to space, it is the distance that differs from culture to culture. For example, the relation of a person to personal space is determined not only by culture, but also by individual characteristics.
When it comes to time, Hall also divided society into monochrome and polychrome. So, for example, with Chinese, the population density in China has a great effect on what personal space mean to people, because sometimes they have even whole families and extended families living together within a single household. And when it comes to time, Chinese focus less on precision and accounting of time than on relationship and traditions.
Remember, this is an informative video. We invite you to download an app from the Apple Store or from the Google Store, and also to use our premium services. There, you can find the difference between context and also values. These are two very important things that every author in the current theories always takes into consideration. And it is very important because it will give you the awareness that you need to deal with other people. Our application is theory applied. You might be wondering, how do we apply intercultural communication theory in an app? Well, as you can see in the screen, we also have nonverbal communication and do's and don'ts. So, for nonverbal communication, if you get to take into consideration the authors Thomas, David C., Inkson and Kerr from their study of 2003, you will see that they specified that body language, physical proximity, body movements, gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, and tone of voice are part of nonverbal communications. This is mandatory to be aware of in order to be successful while communication, not only people that speak other languages, but some that have different gestures than we do.
There are two more concepts that need to be taken into account. Number one is stereotyping. Regardless of the culture that you're going to be in, you're going to be faced with stereotypes. The invitation here is to be very careful because they are exaggerated and sometimes not even true. The second concept is to understand cultures through metaphors. We invite you to review Gannon's studies. He actually uses cultural metaphors to describe, compare, and analyze national cultures worldwide. It is very interesting because remember, this application is theory applied.